So today is Sunday, and that only means one thing: pasta. So today we're going to make our meatballs. And in my meatballs, I have here 2.5 pounds of, it's a combination of veal, pork, and beef. I have 2 cups of panko breadcrumbs, which are unseasoned. I have 1.5 cups of grated Romano cheese, 4 eggs. I have a handful of fresh basil. I have a large sweet onion that I have cut up, and I have garlic. So we're going to start by putting our eggs in our bowl. That's we're going to mix that together. And then we're going to take these ingredients and we're going to put them in the food processor. Give them a quick chop. To our eggs, we're going to add our panko. And we're going to add our cheese. I like a lot of cheese. And we're going to mix these together. And then I'm going to add my onions, garlic, and basil. I love the flavor of basil in my meatballs. Pinch of salt, maybe about a teaspoon, and a little bit of pepper. So I'm going to mix these together. Then we're going to add our meat. Okay, in order to not have really hard meatballs, you don't want to mix this too much. So we're going to lightly toss this together, making sure that it's all mixed together, but not crushed. Every time I make these meatballs, they barely are out of the oven, and my husband has already eaten half of them. So we'll see what happens today. Okay, we're almost ready. We're almost ready to roll. I have here 2 pans, and I have put on top of the pans a silicone baking liner, which helps keep them from sticking to the pan while they're cooking. So I have my oven preheating to 325 degrees convection roast, which turns them out to be a nice brown color, and they don't get hard, and they're tender to the taste. So we're going to roll our meatballs out. Handful, medium-sized meatball. You can make them larger, you can make them smaller if you want, but I like this size because then you can make meatball sandwiches. I put them on my pizza, I put them in my sauce. So this is a versatile little meal. Okay, so I've rolled up all my meatballs. I'm going to sprinkle them with a little bit of olive oil just to give them a little extra flavor, and then we're just going to pop them in the oven. We're going to they're going to cook for about between 30 and 40 minutes. We'll keep an eye on them. When they get to be a nice golden color, we're going to take them out. So today I'm going to make my pasta sauce. I'm going to start here with 6 strips of bacon, which I've cut into pieces. I've got a whole onion that I have cut the long way that we're going to put into the sauce. I've got fresh basil and my tomato sauce, salt and pepper. It's a very simple recipe, and it's one of my favorites. So we're going to put some olive oil, a couple of tablespoons of olive oil into our pan. And then to that I'm going to add my bacon. Now, I've used pancetta in the past. I'm using regular bacon today because that's what I have. So we're going to cook the bacon down for a couple of minutes, and when the bacon starts to get to be a little bit on the crispy side, we're going to add our onion. Now this onion I have cut halfway, so I'm going to salt both sides of this onion. By salting the onion, it makes it tender and it brings out the flavor. It makes it softer. So our bacon is cooking. Okay, so the bacon is cooked down. It's not completely cooked, but it's just beginning to get crispy. So now I'm going to add my onion. Now you're going to be a little careful when you do this because the oil can splash back at you. So we're going to drop the onion salted side down first. We're going to let the onion cook for a minute or so. And then we're going to turn it over so that the other side gets a chance to cook as well. And that'll soften up and it'll give you a really sweet tomato sauce. So while we're doing that, we're going to chop up some basil, which is another main ingredient in this pasta sauce. Get a handful of basil here. Now I also keep this in my freezer. This is frozen basil that you can find in a lot of grocery stores. And if you can't find basil, fresh basil one day, I always know that I have this in my freezer. And it's very good and you can't really tell the difference. So I'm going to roll up my basil and I'm going to cut off the ends and then I'm going to cut them into small little ribbons. So now I'm going to flip my onion. So I usually do that with my tongs and my wooden spoon. And sometimes the onion will fall apart, but that really doesn't matter because it's all going in the same place. Okay, so we're going to let that cook for a second, and then we're going to turn off our flame, and we're going to add our tomatoes. Now this is 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes that I'm going to add slowly. Now we need for this to cool down just slightly so that it doesn't splash back at me. Slowly do this. Okay, so our tomatoes are in. I have the flame off. I'm going to mix it together. And add about 2 or 3 tablespoons of salt. That's kind of up to you, but I think that the salt brings out the flavor in the tomato sauce. Tomatoes always need salt, so. And then we're going to add a couple of pinches of pepper. Now, as you're making it, you can taste it, and if you want it a little saltier, you can make it a little saltier. If not, you can just keep it the way it is. Okay, so we're going to put the flame back on medium. We don't want it too hot. I'm going to add my basil. And in fact, I'm going to use a couple of these. Come in little cubes. And all you do is just pop it in. It's like an ice cube tray full of basil. So we're going to mix this all together. We're going to leave it on medium heat and we're just going to let it cook. I don't cook my sauce for hours and hours. I like my sauce maybe after about 40 minutes to an hour. This sauce will be absolutely perfect. And it's quite versatile. I use it on my pizza. I use it for sandwiches. If I'm making a chicken parmesan, I use it really all around. And I don't put my meatballs in the sauce because it gives it a different flavor. So when I do take my meatballs out, I take some sauce out and put it in a separate pot. And then I put the meatballs in that so that I have a sauce for certain items and then a sauce with meatballs. Okay, so the sauce is simmering and our meatballs are ready. So as you can see, they're a nice golden brown. So we're going to take them out of the oven and we're going to put them on a plate and we're going to taste them. them on these pans, they're easy to get the meatballs off. They don't stick. They just all slide around. So I'll take a couple of meatballs. A little bit of sauce. And the only thing missing is a little bit of cheese. And okay, so here's my finished product. I've put my pasta sauce on them, and I'm going to taste them.